Welcome to Career Management for Admins. Nadyne, me.
In case you couldn't tell.
Yeah, in case you were a little weird on the thing. About us.
Goodness, it's weird writing these things. I don't know if you find that to be the case. I actually made the mistake of going to my LinkedIn profile and reading whatever I wrote there. But anyway, so that's all the corporate version of me. I'm an Apple nerd. I've been in Apple development communities since roughly the dawn of time. I've only ever other than my very first job when I was a baby developer, my very first job was actually shipping code on a VAX. So if you know what that is, thank you. I appreciate that. Little worried we can talk about it later. But other than that, everything that I have shipped has been on a Mac. So I've developed some of the software that you use and administer today. You can go look on LinkedIn if you really care what it is. It's not that exciting. But I've spent my career across a pretty broad range of things. I've worked in startups. I've worked in Fortune 500 companies. I've done enterprise software. I've spent the past 10 years doing healthcare and health tech. And along the way, somebody made the worst decision and they let me lead a team. And so now I'm leading large teams. And I learned a ton along the way that I really wish I had known earlier in my career. And that's part of why we're here today, is because a lot of this stuff doesn't get spoken about. You just get told, hope that, do your best and you'll get a promotion, you'll get the raise. Not true.
No.
But I'll let John introduce himself before we go too far.
Yeah, do the thing is really bad advice. I've been part of the Apple admin community since the late 1990s. I actually started in IT working in an AS400 shop. Also the dawn of IT time. The first thing I actually did dev work for a while. I did interactive voice response, coding on OS2. So, yeah, I liked OS2. It was good.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that here.
I also appear to accidentally kill conferences. I spoke at the last C4, the last Macworld Expo, the last Mac IT, the last Conduct Chicago.
Comforting, isn't it?
Yeah. So hope you enjoyed this. May not be here. Written for a bunch of things. I've had some opinions about installers, automation, Apple documentation, and lack thereof. I've worked in way too many industries for my own good. Higher ed, local government, finance, advertising, marketing, PR, data centers, factories is my current gig. I work in a factory. So a lot of things. And along the way, and I was in the Air Force for 6 years, 7 years in the Air Force, 6 winters in North Dakota, which was the first time anyone actually suggested to me that managing your career was something you did as its own task. And one of the things I'm grateful for the military for was, no, you have to do this, dummy. We all do career management whether we want to or not. Every day you're at work, you're managing your career, whether you think you are or you're not. Everything, every Teams message, Slack, every one-on-one with your manager, every interaction you have with someone else is a form of career management. Even if you're not changing jobs, especially if you want to change jobs, then you have to be more active about it because you have to convince someone else to hire you. But you're doing this all the time anyway, so you may as well be deliberate about how you're doing it and actually have an idea of a plan.
A sketch of a plan?
Yeah, a sketch of a plan, a concept of a plan. It's tedious, it's banal, it's boring, it's absolutely necessary. The whole thing sucks, to be honest. And because there's no objective procedure. There's nothing you can say that, okay, I did this here, so now I'm here. Oh God, none of this applies. And then you go from a small company to a big company or the other way around, and I'm not sure which one's worse when it comes to this.
Just different.
Yeah, it's awful. It's just differently awful. There's some common myths around this. The biggest one is this one. It's very cute. Bless your heart if you believe it. But again, if you don't tell people you're doing good work, how do they know? Oh, it's your manager's job to keep track of that. That's cool, but you're not their only person or requirement. They have other things. You're too busy for that, to which my response is always, you don't like money? Because I like me some money. This one I see sometimes. the kindest response is you're just covering basics. You're not writing a thesis statement. This is not an academic paper. It's giving someone a bullet list of what you've done this quarter, this month, this year. It's just busy work. It absolutely is busy work. It's also busy work to accounting. That's what they call your raise that you're not going to get. So yeah. Ideally, you do good work, people would notice this and reward you accordingly. That world's never existed. That has never been the case. And I say this again as someone who spent 7 years in the military, which is the most regimented, organized thing ever. And I still had to actively make sure, because I would be on different shifts from the person who wrote my reviews. They didn't work with me. There was no way they could know other than what they heard from other people. Sometimes what they hear from other people isn't what you want them to hear.
And more times than not, I've reported to somebody who didn't even know what I did.
Yeah.
I have had to explain to them what my job was, how it contributed. So in those cases, it's imperative to take some ownership and to say, this is what I've done, this is why I have done it, and this is what the contribution is.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, you run the risk, which, by the way, I made the mistake many times of just letting it happen and then finding out at review time, sitting there across a desk from your manager, where they tell you something that is demonstrably false, and it's too late.
Yeah.
And it was actually too late 3 months ago.
Yeah, in my case, my last 4 managers, only one of them had any form of IT background. The rest have all been engineering, like mechanical engineer, electrical engineer managers. So they live in this very well-regimented world with all these metrics they can look and track. And my metric is, has anyone told you that they hate me? No? Okay, I'm killing it. Because in IT, if no one's complaining about you, you're probably doing an amazing job. This can be hard. Because the idea in theory is great. Hey, I do really good work. But now you need to tell someone in an actionable way that they can identify. And again, they may not know what it is you do. They just, like in my case, I'm one of 2 IT people in an engineering group. We get shunted between departments. It really doesn't matter what department we're in. Our job never changes. That can be tricky. Explaining to someone who has no idea. And you have to do it in a way that elevates you without being egotistical. The line between self-advocacy and bragging is thin. It is molecular. It's like the difference between pride and ego. One is great, the other is destructive. And you can torpedo yourself really easy if you're not careful. Especially for sysadmins, we're all used to these we procedurize things, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, and then here's this thing that's kind of like, I'm going to read the room and kind of guess what this person cares about. Now, in a larger company, it's a little bit easier because you're going to have more formal job descriptions and stuff. In a smaller company or a startup,
It's vibes-based.
yeah,
100% vibes-based.
yeah,
I'm sorry to inform you of this, by the way.
yeah. A lot of variability, different industries, going from advertising, the difference between being in a small advertising company and an F100 manufacturing company. Oh my God. Some of it's very cool, some of it's very wild, and so there's no one thing. And if you're like the only IT person, great. Now the person decides on your raise is possibly a CEO, and there's maybe 10 people in the company, so they're all wicked busy. And you have to explain to this person who has no idea what you do, they just care that you do it well. How do you define well? Well, that's a trick. It also very much depends on where you are in your career. The biggest divider tends to be, are you an individual contributor, you're a sysadmin, you're a tech, you're a coder, or are you management? And the difference between those two blurs really heavily as you get higher and better. The biggest one is, are you specifically tasked with being in charge of people and things?
Are you the one writing the review?
Yes. If you're not writing a review, you may be managing, but you're probably not a manager. But again, that line, that blurs. As a low-level individual contributor, you have the easiest job. Your job,
Relatively speaking.
yes, yeah. Like,
Easiest does not mean easy.
yes, it's like the difference between safer and safe. This is what you're primarily there to do. Make it easier for your manager to give you good reviews. That's most of it. How you do that gets very squishy at times, but really That's your entire thing and that's how I view it. My job is to make it easy for my manager to make sure that I'm in the upper end of the raise bucket, not the lower end. Track what you do throughout the day, whatever format you want to do it. And it doesn't matter how minor it is. In my case, I maintain a lot of license servers. If we have to update the AutoCAD license server license version, I'll put that somewhere. We have, it's a big, Honeywell's a big company. We have forms for this. I just throw it in the form. However you do it, keep track of the things you do. Keep track of why they're important. Talk to your manager, not just in formal meetings. Remotely, this can be tricky because you don't have, I'm kind of lucky I have to be on site. My manager has to be on site. So I can just kind of walk over, lean over the cubicle wall and have a quick chat and wander off. Remotely, it's very deliberate talking to people. You don't have that casual contact. Figure out a way to do it anyways.
I mean, nominally, my manager and I work in the same location. He and I are actually in the same room together once a month. So being deliberate about it and and putting the time in to send off the quick Slack message, to drop the quick text. And sometimes it is just, hey, I want you to know this is going well. But that deliberateness about it makes a difference because that gives you better opportunity to later say, that thing that I told you was going well, it's not now. Can we talk about it?
Yeah.
So being deliberate about this gives you a better in, and that also helps you not be the person who only comes to your manager when something's broken.
Yeah. Yeah. If you help someone, ask them to say something, this can feel weird. And it did for me the first few times, but after a while you get used to it. It's very easy if your company actually has a method for doing this. Again, Honeywell, a very large company, we have multiple avenues to tell someone else they did a great job. I worked at a very tiny weather science company for a while, and we had a program where you would just tell the office manager, hey, so-and-so, did me a solid, and suddenly they'd get a $50 gift card to the local mall.
What I like to do if I'm not in an environment this regimented is if I ever think to myself, you know what, I should send that person a thank you. I send it to them and then I CC their manager.
Yeah.
That is the easiest way to make sure that they know that you appreciate whatever it is that you've done for them or that they've done for you, and let their manager know that this person is doing good things.
Yeah.
Because that can be very, when John helps me out, John makes sure that nothing got messed up today. Nobody else sees that except me. So being able to send that note really makes a difference to their manager too, because so much of that, when you are the manager and you're managing a team of 10 to 75 people, that's invisible. So surfacing that helps everyone involved.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Be very proactive about doing that to everybody you can. And again, it doesn't have to be some huge thing. You can just say, hey, they did this thing that really helped me out. I really appreciate the work they're doing. I do it for our help desk people all the time. And I think I'm one of 3 people out of thousands who do it, because the other benefit is when I need a favor from them, that wheel is greased. That ramp is greased. That just slide right down. I'm Tony Hawk in that.
But I will say, it can feel weird to go to someone and say, hey, I just helped you out. Would you mind?
Yeah.
So the way that I do this when I'm feeling super uncomfortable about this is I find the person who I think is most sympathetic and who is most on my side, and I say, hey, I'm looking for a promotion this year. Would you mind telling my manager about the thing that I just did for you? I think it was helpful for you. If it was, could you just drop him a note? But so do that with a sympathetic audience, build the muscle so that over time it doesn't feel so awkward, because it's just a human interaction. And they have the option of saying yes or no. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is, and especially, as a manager, someone randomly outside of your group saying that about one of your people really sticks in your head, because it's not going to be the common thing. So this you have to be careful with, because as we all know, in the world, people will take advantage of this. This is not saying do an extra job. This is saying if you want to get a promotion, look at the description of what that next promotion level does and start incorporating that kind of behavior into your daily routine. When I was looking for my last promotion, I made sure that I was doing a lot of finding things that weren't working well and making sure they worked well. because that's kind of what a lead was supposed to do from a senior to a lead. It's more being proactive about seeing things that are working okay, but not as well as they could be. So I started doing a lot of that. It was still part of my job. I wasn't like doing someone else's job, but I was making sure they saw, hey, I'm already performing at this level, so it makes the promotion easier.
And to level that up a little bit, as you're doing that and as you're tracking what you do, use that language that's from your career ladder in your tracking document.
Yes.
Because that makes it much easier for your manager and for HR and whoever else is looking at this to connect the dots.
Yep.
So speak their language, and that will get that. Again, the job is to make it easy for them to write you a good review. So by putting it in their language, you're making it possible for them to just cut and paste.
Yeah. Yeah. People are lazy. If you make it easy for them to do nice things for you, they will, because that's the easy path. Follow the money. If you can tie dollar, especially in larger companies, if you can tie dollars saved to what you did, and it doesn't have to be precise. Don't worry about like, oh, I don't have a spreadsheet. You can, don't lie, blatantly lie. But if you can give nice round numbers to things, that again is a huge boost, because now you're seen as someone who's doing especially IT, we're usually overhead.
We're a cost center.
Yes, we don't make money, we spend it. So when we can show that we are actively spending less money than we absolutely have to, that we have saved this money while not causing problems, that's a huge boost, because that's a language that many people, especially again, larger companies, you can show, hey, this thing we did last year, it saved a couple of $100,000. Now, maybe their budget's in the billions, but a couple of $100,000 gets noticed. You get into that 5-6 figure territory or higher, people absolutely notice. So keep track of how much money and time, and you can translate time to money. Again, approximates are fine, but it's a definite metric that everybody understands money.
And I want to say one more thing about this is that when John was talking about tracking what you do, and he said that he's using internal tools for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely do that, and make a copy for yourself, because someday you're going to have to write a resume. So if you make this a regular practice, I actually block off time on my Friday to do this. But so if you make this a regular practice and you just do it and you keep a copy for yourself, when it comes time to write your self-review, write the review for others, and then update your resume, instead of having to go, oh my goodness, it's been a year, and I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, let alone what I accomplished in January. This helps you immeasurably. It makes your job of updating all of those documents 100 times easier.
Yep. And it can be, when I was in the Air Force, I had 2 stripes at the time. We had done this weird weekend thing cleaning up the tool crib, which for flight line maintenance is a deal. So I went to my shift super and was like, hey, can you write me a letter accommodation about it? He's like, how about you write me the letter, I'll sign it, because I'm not doing that work. Okay. I wrote it. He said, no, change this, change this. I did that. He signed the letter, goes in my file. They have a thing in the Air Force called step promotions where you get a stripe a little early. I did not do great on the boards for that, but that letter I had that no one else had got me 6 months of more money and an extra stripe on my shoulder, which in the Air Force, kind of important. That kind of thing really can pay off. Again, make it easy for your manager to do nice things for you. Higher level IC, and this gets so weird. And again, this is the biggest company I've ever worked in, so a lot of this for me is sort of new. As you get to the higher levels, the difference between an individual contributor and a manager blurs hard. Like there's not that nice delineation anymore because you're doing so many managing tasks and that kind of thing. About the only thing it is, depending on your org structure, you might be writing reviews even though you're not a manager. God only knows. And you get to titles with lead and principal, it all is just sort of this and
Does
sort
get
of
blurry.
that. Yes.
But the thing is, like, as you get more and more senior, like, the thing that makes you a great individual contributor at the more junior levels are your technical skills. No question about it. Like, you've got to be great at your job. As you get more and more senior, we assume that that's the base. We assume that you've got it. It's the table stakes. So the thing that differentiates a staff person from a principal person, obviously depending, I'm assuming at certain levels here, but like, what differentiates someone at one level and the next level up, I guarantee you, is their professional skills.
Yeah.
Can they work with somebody else? Can they bring a team together? Can they drive a group of people who don't want to agree on something to a decision? All of those are the most important thing to get right at the more and more senior levels. Now, I know that especially in our field, there's the myth of the brilliant jerk. And since we're Mac people, we can all name one particular brilliant jerk. That person is an anomaly. Do not rely on that stereotype being the thing that gets you to the next level. The brilliant is almost always overpowered by the jerk. So learning how to be that great team player, sending those thank you notes, at doing all of that, that's the thing that gets you to the next level, because the higher your career goes, the bigger your splash radius is. And so you've got to work with people who are not just in your department. You have to work with people across your entire company. And people across the company don't know what your technical skills are. They only see how you're working with people.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that is going to come back and haunt you or help you.
Yeah. You want people to refer to you as they're smart and, not they're smart but. Because getting past that but is a lot more work than you want the and way more than the but in that case.
And the but, by the way, gets fired first. When layoff time comes, because it comes in our industry, the person who is more difficult to work with is higher up on the layoff list, usually.
Yeah, because especially at the higher IC level, everybody's smart. You're not unique. The streams are going to cross. You know, you're leading projects, you're doing things. I'm currently doing a slow rolling Sisyphean task that will, if it works out the way it should, is going to create a business IT department. That's a lot of persuasion, because I have, you know, it's like being a project manager in a functional group. I have no authority. I can't make people do anything regardless of my title. So I have to, like, you know, here's why this is good for you, and here's why this is good for you, and here's why this benefits you. And it's a lot of negotiation and figuring out what someone wants. Yes. It is hard, because managing this way takes way more work. The nice thing with being a manager is you have authority. If you have to, you should do it sparingly. You can be like, I understand you don't like it. In this case, I don't care. We have to do this. And they have to. When you're an IC and you're a lead or a principal, you're very rarely going to have that authority. You're working on things called councils and whatever. So it's a lot of negotiation and persuasion and leadership, like actual leadership, not just being, you know, the loudest person in the room. You know, it's basically like, if you're familiar with it, project management speak, it is exactly like being a PM in a functional org. It's the same thing. You have all this responsibility and almost no authority. So what becomes important? We've been banging on it already. This is so important.
We put this at number one for a reason. If you can't communicate clearly, if you can't influence other people to come around to your point of view, that doesn't mean you get your way all the time. It does mean, though, that people listen to you, they take what you're saying into account, and they make an informed decision based on it. Yeah. Those skills are imperative. You have to have those at the higher levels. And those get, at every step you take up, they get 10 times more important. Yeah. Invest highly here. Yeah,
if you are not sure about your writing skills, find a good writing class. Not just technical writing, find a good creative writing class. It's all good. There's a variety of methods to learn how to be a better public speaker. If you want to go hardcore, find a place doing open mic comedy night. If you can get a solid 5 minutes where everybody's laughing and no one's heckling you and you've dealt with hecklers, there is no corporate presentation that will ever intimidate you again, because you're not ducking beer bottles in corporate, hopefully.
And if you're not that level, most companies have really high quality presentation training.
Yes.
And honestly, what presentation training is 99% of the time is putting you in a room, telling you to do things like not say and I, and then putting you in front of a camera and making you give a presentation. And then the worst torture in the world is that they make you watch it afterwards. And it is awful, it is painful, and it fixes your presentation style.
Yeah.
So definitely invest highly here.
Yes. Get comfortable with senior management, because the higher you get as an individual contributor, the more you're going to be in rooms with people with titles like vice president, director, chief something officer, IO, EO.
If
Doesn't
you've
matter
ever
what
said
happens.
to yourself, I wish my org had a seat at the table, this is the seat. And these are the people who are at the table with you.
Yeah.
So you've got to be comfortable in being able to say to your CEO in a way that they will hear, I disagree with you, this is why. I recommend this course of action.
Yeah. And again, money, 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 especially at a higher level, I see the things you touch get more expensive. They get longer term. We're currently building a new building. There's a lot of people who aren't facilities people in that, who aren't managers, who are deeply involved with this new building. They are touching very expensive things. You have to get good with tracking money, with explaining why you're spending this money, showing where you solved the money, you saved the money. Oh, we need to spend money we didn't plan on. That's always the fun one. Surprise, we discovered a thing that we didn't think was a thing, but now it's a thing, and it's a thing with many, many zeros. And here's why we need to deal with that in a way that isn't no. Get very good with that. This is also hard, but especially as a high level IC, it is one of the most critical things. You are eventually going to get known. It was kind of a shock to me about a year and a half into Honeywell at how many people in IT knew who I was, who I'd never talked to. I didn't know them, but they knew me. You have to get good at managing your visibility. You have to be very aware when you're talking to people who aren't in your department, and even in your department, what you're saying, how you're saying it, how they may see you. Sometimes, unfortunately, this means you maybe have to reconsider the nerd t-shirt and start wearing things with collars, possibly even ties.
Okay, so I work in San Francisco. That's not true. John is in Kansas City. He's in a totally different environment, though.
Yeah, I'm in I work for the government branch of an aerospace company, a very large multinational company. I guarantee you have the most casual you will see our CEO, because that's the thing, multiple level CEOs, that's fun, is you'll see him in a shirt with a collar and no tie, but it's still the shirt he would wear the tie with, right? So, but you have to start thinking about how people see you at multiple levels, and you have to make sure that what they want to see is what they're seeing. It sucks, it's tedious, it's very necessary.
And that's what I was talking about earlier about your splash radius. Like, the higher you go, the more people are seeing you. The more people are interacting with you, or are watching you in a meeting, or are watching you on Slack, or are seeing you somewhere. And so being aware of that and knowing that this person may never talk to you. And so, so personally, something that I have to manage is that, bless my parents' heart, their love language is sarcasm. Great. I can be sarcastic with my father any time of the day. I can be sarcastic with my family any time of the day. The problem is if I'm in a big meeting and I'm speaking and there are 30 people in the room who have never met me before. And so they don't know I'm being snarky. They just think I'm being mean.
Yeah.
That comes back. And getting the reputation of the person who just tears others apart in a meeting, even though you and I knew it was a joke, the rest of the room didn't, that will block you from moving to the next level.
Yeah.
And you will get the feedback in your next review that people perceive you as mean or cruel or thoughtless.
Yeah. It's even better when your first real job was working on airplanes outside at night in North Dakota in the wintertime. And so at that point, your love language, whatever it was before, becomes extreme profanity. That is a hard one because it's so unconscious. And you're like, oh, I can't say that word or that phrase or really anything I was about to say. Hold on. I'm going to stammer for a minute while I edit this back down.
And it's a skill. It takes, but like it does
Yeah.
take practice. It definitely does, because like, especially in moments of stress. Like in moments of stress, we reach to the things that are easiest to us, that we're most comfortable with. And so, in a moment of stress, I am highly likely to crack a totally inappropriate joke. I can't do it. There are times when I absolutely have to look at the room and say, he's never met me before. How could this look to him? And how has it looked to me when I've been that person in the room?
Yeah.
When I've only seen my CTO like once a year at a big all hands, and he's cracking, and I think he's cracking jokes the entire time, but I'm not actually certain. And those jokes sure seem to be pointy. So going back and thinking on baby Nadyne, when she was in the audience and seeing these things, has also helped me to realize that what I intend and how I come across can be two totally different things.
Yeah.
And so spending the time to be thoughtful about that and how I want that person to perceive me. Because I don't want people to be afraid of coming up to me. You don't say a word. Thank you, by the way. I so appreciate that. Was a risk. I appreciate that you were here with me for it.
Innocent child. I don't know why you pick on me.
But so being so knowing that and using that as and understanding that that's part of what I'm being evaluated on, whether I like it or not. Because my feelings about how about all of this are irrelevant. What matters is that this is how it actually works.
Yeah. And from a very specific IT point of view, first of all, no one but you knows your intent. You can't put your intent in your hand and hand it to someone. So the only way anyone in the world who isn't you knows what your intent is words and actions. And one of the classic ways, and it took me a while to learn this, is one of the first things I did that really helped with my relationships with my peers was purging the phrase RTFM from my vocabulary. Unless I knew that person extremely well and they got the joke. Because while it is technically correct, it is also fundamentally a very mean thing to say to someone who's struggling. They may not even know where the M is, and you're just blowing off, and they're asking for help, and you're like, well, just read the docs.
But I don't know where to start in the docs.
Right. Your intent may be good to help them learn how to find this information out, but you have basically just smacked them upside the head and walked away, and they may not hate you forever, but they will resent you for a very long time for that behavior. And they will remember that for a very long time. And it is very hard to pile up enough good deeds to overcome that. Intent is only meaningful to you. Everybody else only has what you're doing and what you're saying. Be very aware of that. Speaking of baby sysadmins, invest in the new people. Take them under your wing. And baby sysadmin here can have a very wide range of meanings. My cohort spent most of his career as a tool designer. I would be lost without him because he's been at Honeywell for so long. He knows where all the bodies are buried, how the budget process actually works, who's using things, what this division actually does. Things that would take me 20 years to learn, he already knows. I can teach him sysadminning in about, he's picked it up pretty quick in about 2-3 years. That's the easy part. What he knows, oh my God. So in a sense, me valuing that, first of all, it means he handles all the budget stuff. Thank you, God. but it helps. It created a really good working relationship because again, we're technically shadow IT, even though we really aren't. So we have to have this good working relationship, and he has to know more so that when I'm like, I don't know here, he can function. Doesn't do me any good to be the only person who knows things because then, I'd be like watching my phone go, bam, bam, bam. I don't want to do that. So at a practical level, making sure that you invest in the people around you, the new people, makes your life easier, but it also, again, makes you seen as someone who can lead. It's a critical part of leadership.
And usually career ladders make mentorship an explicit part of the higher levels. I think scouts, you have a rule, you leave the campground better than when you found it. That's how I think of our jobs at the more senior level. Like I should leave my team better off when I leave the team than when I joined it. in some way, whether helping them grow their skills, creating new opportunities for them, helping them learn the pain of telling everybody to RTFM when it's technically true, even though they just don't know where to start. Like, all of those things are part of our jobs at the more senior levels.
Yeah.
And again, this is a part of what differentiates you from from junior early career to senior staff principal late career, is that mentorship.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that as the person who has made the decisions about where we draw the lines for who gets the promotion, who gets the raise, these are the things that we take into account. So the person who is just heads down in their office all day long banging away at their keyboard is not as valuable to my organization as the person who is out there helping train the next generation. Yeah. And is helping bring those people along and helping them learn the skills that they're going to need.
Yeah. I mean, my first gig out of the Air Force, I found out later, my boss told me, I got it because I demonstrated human skills. Because, which yep. is funny. But like, I knew how to say thank you. I knew how to admit when I didn't know something.
Didn't mean it that way.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Different conversation.
But it was because, as he said, he could teach anybody how to do the job I'd been hired to do. That was part of his job, was to teach those skills. He could teach it. He didn't care. But teaching people how to think, how to behave in public, that's really hard. And he said, I already have 3 children. I don't need one that I'm paying to be here. So I need the fact that you know how to behave with people already is a good thing. And that's part of this, is this learning how to react with people, bring them up to their next level so they can get the raise, the promotion. The downside of the IC.
So I'm going to actually, you know what? I don't think this is a downside.
Okay.
I truly don't. Because at some point, you're going to hit a terminal level. In the best of cases, you've chosen this. Like, you've decided, look, I've hit staff. I like this job. I am comfortable here. I am contributing. I don't want to stretch to the next level. Yeah. It is a time investment I don't want. It is more time in meetings that I don't want to do. Like, I look at the job of the next level and I don't want it, whereas I'm happy with this one. That is a powerful thing to say to your manager of, like, I'm not saying that I'm going to coast. I am saying I am doing a good job at this level. I like this level.
Yeah.
I am not gunning for the next level.
Yeah.
The flip side of that, you're right, though, is that in any company, I don't need 30 directors for a team of 70 people. Like, that just doesn't make business sense. And so there is the flip side of this, where you reach a terminal level, not because you're not showing the skills, not because you haven't done the work, not because you haven't built the relationships. It may simply be that there isn't a business need for that level. That's a different discussion, and that's why at the end we're going to talk about how to know when it's time to move on to another company. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, again, especially at the very high levels of individual contributor, there's maybe hard requirements. You can only have this many people with this title of principal. And, you want to be a lead this. Well, you're not in that department, but that's the department that controls that title. And if they don't want you in that position, it is easier as an IC, though, definitely, to be if you find your perfect place, as it were, to just stay there. Because again, as an IC, getting promoted is a much more internally active process, more initiated by you than anyone else. And if you just are like, I'm happy here, I'm never going to initiate that, it's not until someone says, you've been at this position for a long time, and you can say, no, I'm very happy here.
You're right, I have been. Thank you for noticing. Yes.
Low to mid-level managers.
This is a new world.
You are no longer responsible for how you are seen to be doing your job. As a matter of fact, your ability to directly affect it drops dramatically.
I couldn't talk him out of this, in case you were curious.
That would have required you to try.
Because I recognize what tilting at windmills is, and I chose not to.
Yes.
That is 100% true.
Yes. But your success is defined by how well other people do their jobs. This can lead to a lot of especially A lot of corporate theory is, well, you're very good at your job, you're now a manager. Oh my God, no, because that's a completely different skill set that involves all these different things. And that's a great way to have low-level managers who are the most micromanaging people ever, because they see you doing something differently than they would. They've been doing this for a long time, so obviously they know better. No, you have to do it this way.
And I will say, like, this is that transition from being the person who knows how everything works and is quite possibly the person who implemented how everything works, to being the person who leads the team of folks who do that. John just described the most common failure case, because that transition of being the person who knew everything to the person who now isn't the one fingers on keyboard but is still responsible for it, that is a hard transition. And it is learning a whole set of new skills that lots of companies don't help you with.
No, they really don't. It's awful.
Like John just said, it is very easy for for a new manager to, instead of sitting with that discomfort of learning all of these new skills, how to manage the personalities, how to keep people happy, what happens when you sit down, in your one-on-one with somebody and you say, "How are you?" and they just burst into tears. Absolutely, learning all of these skills, super uncomfortable, not a lot of support. And so it is very easy as humans for us to go back to the things that we're actually really good at.
Yeah.
And so that what happens in that is exactly what John just said, of being the micromanager. And so something that you have to learn at this level as a first line manager is that, first of all, there are 30 people in this room. They're going to approach this problem in at least 30 different ways, possibly 40, knowing this crowd. Additionally, it's impossible to stack rank those 30 or 40 different ways. Each of them are going to have their pros and cons.
Yeah.
And also, even if I could say, you know what, this one is absolutely the best, the truth of the matter is, I don't actually need the best of the best 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I may need only 30% of the best in this particular case. I just need it done. I don't need it amazing. And so I have to make sure to allow the person who is learning this new skill, who is trying something they've never done before, to go and do it.
Yeah.
And to go learn how to do it. Because them giving their all and doing it 40% right is actually a better outcome than me doing it myself. And of course, obviously, I'm going to get 100% right. That difference there is, again, that investment in the next generation, which is explicitly your job as a manager, and knowing when to back off and let someone learn the new skill, fall off their bike, learn how to get up again.
Yeah.
That is essential here.
Yeah. And it's even better when you've been doing it for a very long time and suddenly you have to teach someone and you realize how many steps you just mentally miss because you see the first two things, you're like, oh, I already know how to fix this. So you just go bip to the solution. Well, they can't do that. So now you have to remember all these weird little intermediate steps that you haven't thought about in years, decades sometimes. And you have to teach this person who has no concept, no context for what you're telling them. It is the most frustrating thing the Air Force ever did, but it was the best thing, is they taught me, with the Air Force, they have these things called technical orders, which are literally step-by-step how-tos to fix anything on any airplane. We had to write one for a simple job. I wrote one for the grounding plugs. You put a clip on the ground, you plug this into the fuselage. There are 27 separate steps in that when you really break it down. It was the most frustrating thing to write because the teacher would be like, no, that you're assuming.
That's not it.
Break that down more.
Yep.
What's involved in that? Well, you do this. Okay, write it. But it taught me that. And so again, you're not, a lot of times, you're not going to get taught how to be a manager except in the most, you're going to get the human resources training, which is don't say things that hurt people. Don't say things that piss people off. Here's the list of things you may never say. And a lot of times that's going to be your only training, is how to not get the company sued.
If you're lucky, by the way.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
You might
if
not
you're in
even
a small
get that
enough
training.
startup, they may not have any concept that you can be sued for certain things. Or they might think it won't happen, right?
Or, if you work for certain for Fortune 500 companies that, anyway.
Yeah.
This is not a startup thing, I'll just say.
Yeah. So how do you manage that? As it turns out, It's the same, but it's not. Track what you do. What you do becomes very different, but you still have to track what you're doing because at some point you have to explain to someone above you what you did so you can get the more money, maybe another promotion if that's what you want. Talk to your manager. This becomes different because your manager is now a much more senior level manager. So they're dealing with maybe 6 other managers who all have 20 people reporting to them. So now they're effectively managing a large number of people. So their time is even more compressed because at their level, they're in way more meetings than you are or were. And you start appreciating how compressed their time is and why they never had time for you before. Because now you don't have time. Again, this still applies. Except now you're talking about other managers. Hopefully they get this and there's a culture of, I'm going to help you, you're going to help me, we're going to be sitting here scratching each other's backs because that's what you need.
Yeah, I mean, and something to remember as part of this is that as a manager, as the person writing the review, even if you're not actually the final decision maker on where the leveling works out and all of that, like there's now a power differential between you and the team who reports to you. Knowing that is really important and keeping that in mind, and that's going to come up a bunch in this. So something that that is important at this level is not to ask your reports or someone else's reports to say something nice about you. This has to be at a peer level or above, so that you're not coming across as taking advantage of that power differential. Again, you may not intend to take advantage of that power differential, but it is there, and I guarantee you that the ICs who report to you feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. And some companies, especially the larger ones who have, if they've been around for like 100 years or so, have had experience with people causing them the kind of problems they don't want about it, and they may actually explicitly forbid it. And they may close down. They will look at who's doing the thing in the form and go, you can't actually do that. They will stop it. So they will be very proactive about it. But yeah, you have to be very aware that asking. I actually had to explain this when I worked at the data center for FSU. The guy who was second in charge. He had mentioned something offhand that he needed something done to one of my minions, who at that point, because it's this dude, dropped everything. And was about to work a 17-hour day for it. And I walk up like, Matt, what? Drew's losing his mind. What did you? He's like, well, I didn't mean it that way. I'm like, Matt, you're the number 2 person here. When you drop a casual suggestion, it is never a casual suggestion. It is thou shalt get it done now. Unless you explicitly say, I don't care when this is done, or you give them a deadline way out in the future.
I worked for that guy too. We actually, all of the managers who reported to him, we had a nickname for him. He was called the randomizer.
Yeah.
Because he would drop in to some junior IC's cube and he'd say, hey, how you doing? And he'd chat, and then he'd be like, I saw this thing and I think it's really cool. And he meant it as, I just want to connect with you. They heard that as, my boss's boss just told me to work on this thing. That power differential comes into play in ways that you don't expect it. Pay attention to it, because my boss never learned that lesson. And I'm going to be honest with you in this room, he ended up getting fired for it. Because his team actually ended up not working on the things that they were supposed to be working on. So his team stopped meeting business goals because he would stop in and chat with ICs, with junior ICs, send them off on directions, and then deadlines wouldn't get met.
Yeah. I will also say, and this is the very hard and somewhat disappointing lesson, especially if you got promoted out of a group you're already in. The power differential never goes away. It doesn't only exist during working hours. 24/7, you are always above these people.
Always.
If you see them at the grocery store, you are still their manager. You have to keep that in mind in every interaction, and it sucks. It's disappointing, especially if these were people you used to work with. You don't anymore. And
we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a sec.
Yeah. This one, again, this is assuming you want to get promoted again. Do the work of the next level. And again, not taking a senior whatever job as your daily duties, but looking at what they're expected to do. If that's where you want to go to, start showing that you're already performing at that level. Again, making the promotion a mere formality, change of title, because you can do the work. You've demonstrated you're doing the work. You have reduced the can they do this, you already are.
And to tie that back to the previous point about talking to your manager, like especially as a leader yourself, it can be hard to just go out and find those opportunities.
Yeah.
So having the conversation with your manager of, you know, I am a senior manager today. I think I'd like to become a director in the future. I'm looking at the things that a director does. How can you help me get some opportunities to show these skills or to grow these skills? Having that conversation with your manager puts that bug in their ear that that's something that they should explicitly be doing for you. Now, they should know that already. And as we've said, you're not the only person reporting to them, so they've got lots of other things. That reminder and that explicit call to say, yes, I want this, and I'm looking to grow in this way, helps them help you.
Yeah. And sometimes this can mean very inconvenient things like actually finishing the degree. I say this as someone who in 2023 finished a 39-year bachelor's degree.
I went to his graduation
Yes.
ceremony. This is true.
I was by far the oldest person on that, walking across that stage. But because of the next position and where it was in the pay band and because it involved the magic word of bonuses, which I'm very fond of, there was a hard requirement for a bachelor's degree. And it didn't matter.
Nothing mattered.
Yeah, I had 30 years in IT at the time, but that was a hard requirement. And if I wanted that lead title, I had to do the thing. That will happen sometimes. There will be requirements for PMP certification, which can suck to get, but if that's the requirement for the position you want and being in that place in the hierarchy that you want, go get it. Like it's sad that it sometimes requires that, but if it does, you either accept that reality or accept that you're not going to get that promotion. It's not an option sometimes. It's an and, not an or. As always, follow the money. As a manager, you are sometimes explicitly following money because now you have to deal with things like budgets, especially with the word salary in front of it. You have people. You have to justify why you're paying them more money, why you wish for them to get more money. And as much as it seems like it, I don't want them to leave. As it turns out, a lot of companies are like, get another one. You know, they view people as like, you know, you're going to the store and getting oh, this apple went bad, I'll get me a new apple. You know.
You know, John, I truly appreciate that you've reached this level and you still have that level of cynicism about it.
I am absolutely cynical.
Oh, I know
it.
that. Like, no question about it.
Yeah.
And I actually appreciate that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad because, again, especially like at a smaller company replacing somebody they see as a valuable contributor, they don't have the resources to just, you know, throw out a resume and have the best people in the world come in. But, you know, you're an Apple, you're a Microsoft, you're a whatever, you're a Honeywell, you're a GE. You're hiring for a mechanical engineer with experience in submarines. You're GE, you're building a submarine. You need mechanical engineers with experience in submarines. You know, you can find them. Now you're going to pay them well because there ain't a whole lot of them, but you can find them. They will come to you and say, please give me money so I can give you skills. They have a different view of getting rid of people than someone who's like, there's 5 of us, and if this person goes away, this company's going to go under because we can't wait while we hire a new one of them and train them, right? So you have to understand what the reality is for wherever it is you're working and their size. It's the same, but it isn't. And you will find these 5 points show up a lot because they really are the core of about everything. It's just how they work gets really weird.
And so speaking of how how it gets weird, like there's kind of 3 buckets of the work of a manager. There's one bucket that is managing down to your team. You know, so how do you keep the folks who are reporting to you happy, keep them healthy, keep them working on the right things, resolve conflicts, all of the stuff that you probably think about when you're thinking about being a manager. And as a first-line manager, that is most of your job. There's another part of your job, though, and that is managing out to the sides, managing to your peer managers, because now there's a concept. It's in an awful book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I totally don't recommend the book, but I like this concept from it about who your first team is. And your first team are the people who you think of as your peers and who are your support system. Your support system cannot be your direct reports any longer. Your support system has to be your peer managers, because they are the only people who have the same kind of influence that you do, who have the same kind of responsibilities that you do. And so now it's your job to work with them to make sure that their teams are also happy, healthy, productive, working on the right things. Because inevitably there's a conflict between two teams. Happens all the time, and it is the job of the managers to ensure that that gets resolved. And so managing out to the sides, having good relationships with those peer managers gets more and more essential the higher up you go. And then the final bucket of managing is managing up, whether that is to your direct manager or further. But so helping those folks know, what are the things that my team needs to be successful? What are the things, how are we contributing to the business? As a first line manager, most of your time is spent managing down to your team, keeping them happy, healthy, productive. Some of your time is spent managing out to the sides, and a bit is spent managing up. As you get more and more senior, this changes, and we'll talk a bit more about what that looks like in the next section.
Also, even as an individual contributor, for example, I do IT work, but I'm not in IT. So it is crucial for me to be able to do my job that certain groups in IT think of me well. So I'm doing a lot of managing to the sides, because otherwise I literally cannot do what I need to do to get my paycheck, and I'm very invested in that. Other things with managers.
So the thing is, like, managing a team is, like, at some point you're going to have to hire somebody. And so hiring well is important. And what I mean by hiring well isn't just about, like, I mean, we were joking earlier about performance reviews can sometimes be vibes-based. Let me tell you that when hiring is very easy to be vibes-based, especially when you hear people talking about a cultural fit. What's important when you're hiring is to know the skills that you need that person to have and how to assess those. Some of them obviously are going to be those professional skills, especially when you are hiring somebody more senior, but you also need to know how to assess those technical skills. And you need to know, because you're probably not the only person who's on the interviewing team who's making this decision, you need to help everyone around you hire well. And so that means knowing those skills, creating a rubric for understanding what those skills are, and helping people learn how to use that and evaluate against that. Doing that is super important, because a bad hire hurts, and it hurts everyone. So doing that first job of hiring well is one of the most important things of being a manager.
Yeah.
Managing performance is, it's funny because it feels weird. Because when you're not the fingers on the keyboard doing the thing, it feels odd to be saying, how do I manage your performance? And so learning how to coach people and help them grow those skills, hold them accountable, that is important now. And that is a whole new skill set that, at least when I got my computer science degree, nobody taught me. So learning how to do that, learning how to steer somebody, to give them enough room to learn those skills and to make the mistake, because they're going to make mistakes and they need to make the mistakes. Giving them space to make the right size mistake. Like, you don't want to give someone so much room that they bring down production for the entire planet. Has happened. But you also don't want to give them the room to only make an itsy-bitsy mistake. Helping them giving them creating the right opportunities, the right environment, and then the opportunity to learn afterwards.
Yeah.
And helping them learn from their mistakes and recover from it is important as that first line manager now.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one that the military taught me the difference, that you manage things, you lead people. The difference can seem weird, but it is absolutely critical in being considered a good manager, especially if you wish to move off the management totem pole. People are not things. They may appear to be treated like things, especially in budgets and spreadsheets and that, but they are not things. And people are really, really, even if they can't articulate it, they will inherently know when you are treating them like the chair, the desk, the computer they use. They'll absolutely key in on that. And again, that low-level background resentment, they may not actively defy you, but malicious compliance is real. Passive aggressiveness is real. Yes. Yeah. Sure, I absolutely will submit 400 software approvals for plugins every year if that's what you want. Oh, you don't want that. Okay, cool. Right. That is, they're not doing anything wrong, but oh my God, the pain they are going to cause you. And they will do it. Spite is real. People have, once you turn on that spite engine in someone, it does never turn off. You lead people.
And this is important because the person sitting across from you who's reporting to you is actually a human being, even if sometimes they show up as that brilliant jerk or something else, or if they're just having a bad day. And so as a manager, you are guaranteed to get blindsided by someone who reports to you or someone on someone else's team. Like when you say, "How are you doing?" they will burst into tears and you will have absolutely no idea why. You thought they were having a great day. Everything looks good. Like when you look at at their performance, you had no concerns and something goes wrong. It could just be that they walked out of a terrible meeting. It could just be that they've had a bad day. It could just be that they've got a life-changing diagnosis. You never know.
Yeah.
But so you have to be able to let that happen in the room, be able to hold space for it, and then move forward from it.
Yeah.
And figure out what the path forward for that is. And always come back to leading people and being kind and considerate and thoughtful to them while holding them accountable.
Yeah.
And that means, by the way, one of the things that I think is, hardest for a new manager to learn is how to deliver that feedback that they screwed up something. Like that, they got that relationship wrong. They said the wrong thing in the meeting. They blew up the server. Like giving feedback like that is really hard because for me delivering that feedback, like I'm nervous about delivering it, and I'm worried about their feelings, and I'm worried about our relationship. The problem with that though is that if I don't give them that feedback as their manager, they don't know. And they don't have an opportunity to fix it. And if I let that thing fester, if that relationship with that PM just gets worse and worse and worse, it snowballed out of control and it didn't need to.
Yeah.
If I had delivered the hard feedback earlier, given them the opportunity to hear that and learn from it and fix it, that is the kindest thing to do.
Absolutely.
Because you have to set your team up for success. Like that is part of this. Like knowing how to not only get the thing done, but also look ahead. What are the things that are going to get in my team's way? What are the roadblocks we're experiencing? Why is it that other team wants us to submit 400 tickets for licenses? Going and doing that troubleshooting and setting the entire team up for success is one of the skills that you have to get right. Yeah. And looking ahead, learning how to do that look ahead, and then address the problem, whether it is a technical problem or a person problem or a professional skills problem. Identifying that and getting it fixed is imperative now.
Yeah, and it also means you get to. Because you have to start getting very familiar with what all these other departments actually do, not just what the name of the department is.
Yes, absolutely.
Because again, you're going to need them and they're going to need you, and you may as well grease that slide ahead of time.
And finally, there's you. We've actually kind of skipped over this a little bit in a lot of this discussion here, but as a manager, this becomes even more important because of that power differential that we were talking about earlier. You cannot go and vent to your team about your CEO who just went off on you in a meeting. You can't do it. And so that is another one of the transitions from IC to manager that is super hard because you lost your support structure of your peers from when you were an IC. Now you have to create a whole new support structure for yourself that is now your peer managers who now know what it's like. And so now I can go to John and say, can I just have a minute? I just had one of my people blow up on me completely out of the blue, and I need a minute to not be in that so that I can actually go into my next thing.
Yeah.
Creating that support structure for yourself is essential because as a first line manager, it can feel super lonely. And I will and I will give you a peek ahead. It gets lonelier and lonelier the higher you go because you have fewer and fewer peers. And there are fewer and fewer people who understand the work that you're doing and the stress of the work that you're doing. And I don't say this to say, oh, poor pitiful me. Oh no, it's so hard at the top. I do mean this to say that it's different work. And that folks who aren't doing it don't see it, don't understand it. So knowing who you can go to set yourself up for success is important. One of the things that I really advise people here, we include a link in this in our slides, but Laura Hogan has a great article about creating a manager Voltron. And the concept is to go and identify people who have skills that you want and who are super good at it. Identifying who those people are and then going and saying, hi, you are amazing at executive speak and I don't have that skill. Can I buy you coffee and learn some more about how you got there? Doing that helps create that support system. And you have to be super intentional about it. I was just listening to a podcast with Michelle Obama talking about her years in the White House. And one of the things that she said was that she had to be really intentional to reach out and do that. Again, minor power differential here. But so she had to be the one to go out and do that because she is still a person. She was still a mom raising kids. She was still trying to, to be a part of this thing and to have a career of her own. She needed to create her support system. And so this is essential for you to do at this level too.
Yeah. And then the really unfun part about being a manager.
Firing sucks. Can I just lay that out there? And it does not matter why you're firing the person. The single time I have not felt bad firing somebody was the kid who filled his entire laptop hard drive with porn.
Yeah,
not gonna lie, I did not feel bad about firing that kid. But every other time I have. Because I recognize that in that moment I am changing that person's life. And they are gonna remember this for the rest of theirs most likely.
Yeah.
So being kind in that moment, having done all of the previous work of managing performance, leading people, giving them the hard feedback, giving them the opportunity, when it finally comes down to it, if you really do have to take that path, still showing up in that moment as a person and not an automatron is super important. And you're not going to take the sting away. You're definitely not going to make this an awesome experience. But if you can at least make it a human experience, that's really important.
Yeah. And understand, again, especially depending on the size of the company, once that decision is made, they may be very specific. You do not get to be there. This is going to be HR and someone high up and a couple of people to very gently escort them out of the building, which really sucks, but it is a thing that has to happen.
And I want to be clear, you've signed up to be a manager. This is part of the job. It is not a great part of the job. It is hopefully not a part of the job you have to execute on very frequently.
Yeah.
But it is a part of the job. And so taking it seriously and doing the hard work is important here.
Yeah.
So John, we have just done the thing that you and I always do.
Where we just keep talking.
Where we've gone on super long. So I want to give this group an option. We have 2 different topics that we can cover in our remaining 7 minutes. One of them is about what it means to be an upper level manager. And one of them is about how to recognize that it's time to move on and be successful in it, and how to get that, how to set yourself up for the performance review. 1, raise your hand, upper level management. 2, oh, look at that. Excellent. Check with us later. We're more than happy to talk about what it takes to get to upper level management and how those are different. But let's give you the thing that you care about, which is, yes, how to get promoted.
So the first critical part, and this is the part I see so many people mess up on, know how the process works. How does it actually work? I spent a lot of time when I wanted to get promoted at Honeywell. How do I actually go about this? And different departments may do it completely differently. Engineering is going to do it very differently than
Yes.
IT, than facilities, than HR, than whoever. So you have to know what the process is for you and be really intimately familiar with it. And sometimes you'll discover you're more familiar with it than your manager is at first.
And the thing is, like, because the mistake that I see happening frequently is you're in the meeting where you're getting your performance review, and you slide the paper over to across the table, and you're like, you did great this quarter. Here's your raise. Here's your bonus. And they're like, but I wanted a promotion, and I'm like, that's news to me. That is the worst time to say, I want a promotion, or I was hoping for more money, or any of those. Because those decisions were actually made probably 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So at that moment, it is a done deal. It is budgeted. It is done. So know how your process works so you can use that to your advantage. And so when you know that your manager is starting to have those conversations amongst their peer managers of who's going to get the 3 promotions that we've got available for us this year, that they've got the information that they need and that you've set them up for success to have that conversation.
Yeah. And this can be a multi-year process.
At the more senior levels, absolutely.
Yeah. It definitely was for me, aside from, finishing my degree. Even without that, there was still regular check-ins and months and, how's the degree going? It's going well. Okay, here's the next step we're going to do. The day you get official notification, here's what we do. Here's how we're doing it. We were talking about this position. This one's actually a better fit, has a wider, all these things.
Know the process.
These are discussions. When you've decided you want that promotion, you have to very intentionally and actively be like, what do I need to do next? What do we need to be looking at? Who do we need to talk to? Turns out it ended up involving the head of engineering because of the level I was going to. Did not expect that. Surprise.
And so I mentioned this a little bit earlier is, sorry, one last thing on this one. We talked about tracking what you do. And I gave the hints, like use the company's language. If there's language in the career ladder, if there's things about the vision, use that, put it in their language, and give it to them early and often so that they've got it right there ready for you. Yeah. Because then that gives your manager an easier time of talking about it. You're not forcing them to translate from Nadyne into corporate speak. Help them do that.
Yeah.
And that's really what all of this is about, is helping your manager do the advocacy for you when it's time to have that conversation. I've been in cutthroat environments where there literally were 3 promotions for a team of 250 people, and the managers had to duke it out. It is awful, by the way. It is not a good situation for anybody, and I don't recommend working in that kind of environment. But if you're there, you need to know that that's how it works, and you need to know how to set your manager up for success to do that.
Yep. This is also a fun one. And this can be caused by a lot of different things. You realize you're never going to get the promotion. The raise structure there is awful. Lots of reasons.
Or something has changed and it just doesn't work for you any longer. That happens.
Yeah, and it can also be a process of being nibbled to death by baby ducks, as I call it. Like just this series of minor things, and you finally are like, the opportunity cost for leaving is now 0 or negative numbers. I need to leave. However you define that cost.
And so the thing is, there's kind of 2 concepts here. And what we've actually just talked about is what happens when you choose to run away from something. That the current environment sucks for whatever reason for you, and so it is time to leave. There's a flip side to that, though, which is running to something, which is this other opportunity is amazing, and it is better than what I am currently doing for these 3 reasons. There is way more power in running to something than running away from. And don't get me wrong, I have run away from awful jobs. See also 3 promotions for 250 people. Not saying that it's not valid to run away from something. Yeah. I'm saying that you are in a better position to do that. If you are in a better position to make a decision for your career if you're running to something.
Yes.
And that means knowing what makes you unique. As someone who has reviewed over 1,000 resumes this year, I can tell you that I have seen 900 nearly identical resumes. Know the thing that makes you amazing and be able to tell me about it in 2 sentences. If you can't do that, then you're just another resume in the pile. You've got to learn how to differentiate yourself. And you've also got to define what's next for yourself. What is it you want to do? Knowing that and being able to clearly articulate that helps you leverage your network. And so in the 40 seconds that we have remaining, I'm going to make this pitch. Your resume is not a historical record. Your resume is a marketing document. Don't get caught up on exactly what your title was, because let me tell you, I've had some dumb titles over the years. My resume does not reflect the dumb titles. My resume reflects the title of what I actually did. So use your resume as a marketing document to know exactly what that role is that you want next, and to shape your resume around that. So with that, we have 5 seconds left. Who's got a question?
And again, when you download the slides, it has all the links to the various resources and stuff in it. So
you're going to have to catch us in the hall, because the nice people who run the room are going to throw us out correctly. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes,
really
thank you so
appreciate
much.
this.